getting ready to leave Rufus Morgan shelter. A couple people have already left. It's very warm and damp, and we are going to head for a Sassafras. Walk through the knock and uphill. Okay, wondered what I looked like after a night of sleep. Not so bad. Good temperature, so warm. You know, it's gotta be 15 to 20 Celsius. And very high humidity. Just a fairly easy walk, and you can just feel all the dampness and moisture on your body. Going up that mountain is going to be one sweaty proposition, particularly if I have to put a raincoat on. It's holding off for now. Anyway, just gonna walk through the knock, maybe drop off my garbage if I see a pail. It's getting a little bulky, not that it's heavy. And I would have stopped for a pop or something, but I buried my money in my pack and I don't want to have to dig it out. So I just grin and bear it, walk on through. What you see when you first come upon it, on the trail. And eat. These for people to eat. Oh. Okay. You're gonna push on. Yeah. Yep. One of the Ozark boys I just passed on the bridge, so I guess they're here. Kind of a neat place. I'm sure if the weather was nicer and we had timed it differently, we might have stayed here, but it's a little bit more expensive than a free shelter. So, on we go. Neat little area. Tree hut, and I believe there are some cabins. You can just maybe barely make out a light up there. I guess that's where a lot of hikers can stay for expensive nights. These are the cabins in the woods. Must be pretty nice. Well, I'm currently at Sassafras shelter, but it was full. 12 people, 2 layers. Apparently about 4 people or so decided they were going to zero over there because the rain was so bad. I'm looking up right now, and since I set up this tarp on the ground, tied off to a tree at one end and the ground on the other, that a little bit of the sun has come out and the rain seems to have stopped, and I see some blue, but a lot of wind. I'm gonna have to go outside. I had to take off all my clothes that were completely wet from rain or sweat, and get into my merino wool top and bottom, lay the plastic ground sheet with my mat, inflatable mat on it, got into that, got into my top quilt. Just try to get a little warm. Shaking a little bit from the coolness. There's a lot of breeze coming through right now. I did this really quick while the rain was coming down. It's like no one was going to offer to make room for me. I assume Rufus has come and maybe already set up his tent, or he got room in the shelter. I don't know. I haven't heard a thing. I think I've been here for at least half an hour, and anyway, just a lot of draft coming from underneath the edges of the tarp. But the ground was really, really soft from all the dead leaves and stuff, and it's tough to get a really good peg hold. And you see as the tarp comes down on me, it's because the wind is blowing from that end to my foot end, which is open and facing the tree. So, just a little chilly. I'll have to get out, like I say, and double check my pins, and maybe lay some logs or something on the edges so that the draft will not go through. Otherwise, I'll have to pull my underquilt out and double down, cover myself with that. I'm on a little bit of an incline. I don't know if you can see all the room I've got here. I mean, it goes quite far back, and it's 12 feet from end to end. You see the tree there and stuff, the wet stuff at the foot here. Clothing, I don't think it's really going to dry. I might pull out a cord, a twine that I have in my bag here, see if I can hang it up out there, and maybe something can dry from all this wind. Like I say, there's a little bit of blue out there now. It's not really cold, but that wind, well, it just cuts through things. I'm sure the inside of my raincoat is probably pretty damp. I'll definitely have to cook something and eat something, otherwise I'll just feel a lot more cold. I can really see that sun out there now. Anyway, it was a terrible, terrible day. Did I mention that? It was dry enough at the beginning when we left Rufus Morgan shelter, and got a knock where I did some videoing, and it was okay there. Started up the hill, and then after about 15 minutes, the rain came down hard enough that I thought I'll put my rain kilt on and my raincoat and slog through with all the humidity and the heat that would be, sweat and everything. And it was up and up and up, and a lot of switchbacks. I got some heavy rain at one point, and at one point the wind was blowing so hard the rain was coming from the side, and my kilt was just opening up, and so my pants that had the legs taken off of them in my dry bag there, they were totally getting wet, and like I say, my t-shirt, I sweat from the sweat anyway, and yeah, it was blowing and it was miserable, and I kept thinking, the 3 people I passed, one was a section hiker. He's trying to do all the sections within a year, though. He started in November apparently, and he's done about 1,000 miles so far, and he's doing it while he's maintaining a full-time job, so he's doing a lot of walking on the weekends, and must be taking a few Fridays or Mondays off, and a couple of girls that were coming down from up here. I didn't say anything to them. One of them happened to mention it's a nice, sunny, beautiful day. I wish it wasn't. I did fill up one of my bottles from a spring, but I haven't put any filtration on it or a pill in it, so I have to do that, so they have that to drink. Yeah, I kept thinking that, that shelter is going to be nice. I could only really tell if there were 1 or 2 people who were ahead of me on the ground, because the number of holes from the walking sticks and that type of thing. And when I got there, of course the place was full, 12 people, and not a lot of room really well, I think I could have maybe slipped at least one more person in between. There were a couple people I recognized, but no one was really offering, so I stood around for probably about 10 minutes just looking around. The rain kept coming. I got out and was looking at a couple trees to see if they were the right distance apart and the ground underneath it, and would my hammock work there. And finally I came back up to where the trail was, just up the hill a bit. There's already one tent set up that I noticed when I was walking in, which made me alert to think, hey, maybe the shelter's nearby. And I did find a couple trees. I tried to hang the tarp between it, but the wind was blowing so hard, and this was kind of blowing over the saddle, from where the shelter is, across where I am and down the hill that I'm looking at. Anyway, it's just blowing so hard and trying to put the pegs in the ground, and they were just, I would have needed some big pieces of wood, and the rain is coming down and getting cold, and I'm thinking, the desperate times, I've got to do something. So I thought, oh yeah, I can go down to the ground, as I called it, and I saw a big tree and what was semi-level ground next to it that would keep the opening of the tarp in the opposite direction from where the wind was blowing. Unfortunately, it causes the tarp to come in on me, so like I say, I'm going to have to maybe try to go out there and tighten it up a little bit, maybe find some rocks and that type of thing to anchor things and make it a little bit more livable. Otherwise, yeah, well, like I say, the sun has come out, so maybe it's not so bad after all. I'll have to put my Crocs on, and now I've got dry socks on, and walk around because my boots are totally soaked, as you would expect. And I hate to think that tomorrow morning I have to take off this nice warm stuff, put it back in the clothing bag, and put on my wet top, and wet underwear, and wet shorts, and wet socks, and wet boots, and get into that raincoat, which is, the wet is not so much of a problem with it. Stuff everything into my pack, and then get out and undo my tarp and wind it up and stick it in the back of the pack and start walking. We've got that 150-mile mark to go through a gap, and have to reserve a couple bunks just in case. We don't want to get there and find out there's nothing there. So anyway, I guess I'll get out now and go check on whether Rufus is here or not, and batten down the hatches a bit. So talk to you later on this horrible, horrible day. Sorry for the wind noise, but there probably is, but there's my setup for tonight. See my inflatable mattress with the top quilt there, and my pack. And a couple things broken out so far. Water will gather right in that spot if it rains, so I don't know what exactly I can do about that. I've got a few things here hanging, trying to dry. I also went down to the shelter, and I'll continue this in a moment. As I was saying, I went down to the shelter and checked to see if Rufus had come in yet or not, and he hadn't. But there were a couple guys who were at the knock when I left, and suddenly they're in the shelter. So I guess they came by, and they made room for them. Whereas when I was there standing around hoping that someone would make room for me, it didn't happen, and I had to come up to the hill here to try to set up my hammock. But the wind was so hard, the tarp was like and trying to tie it down with the pins, like I said, the ground was so soft, and you see it's really quite mushy, and nothing would really grab hold. So that's when I went for the tarp on the ground. Anyway, I'll try to get my things dry, which would be great, since I can have to put them on again later, and have to keep an eye out for Rufus, because at some point he's going to walk by very tired and very disappointed that he's going to have to set up his tent. Because it's been a long walk. It's already about 2:30, and we left at 8 o'clock. We must have stopped somewhere. I think I got here about an hour ago. It's hard to tell, the time flies when you're having fun. The Appalachian Trail. I guess when I get to the Smokies, it'll be like this, only with snow. Again, just got out and hung some laundry that is half dry. Used my trekking poles to prop up a bit of the tent or tarp. Hopefully I might have to change that one a little bit. Anyway, it's supposed to be heavy winds tonight. Thank you, Paul. I called him because, again, road mobility has let me down and my data is not available. I can make phone calls, but I can't use the internet. Second time that happened, it happened in Franklin one day, and the next day it worked. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, it's supposed to be heavy winds, which I believe, because there were heavy winds all day, and rain about 7 o'clock, you said, and through the night. But tomorrow is supposed to be a very nice day, which is perfect. I've made reservations at Stokoa Creek Shelter, anyway, in Robinsonville, in North Carolina. It's like $24 a person or so, and they will pick us up. So no need to involve cuddles. And they also will drop off, and they have a resupply shuttle at, I think, 5 p.m. weekdays, which is perfect because tomorrow's a weekday, Monday. By the way, for reference, this is April 14th. Kind of losing track of days. It's Sunday. So I gave Rufus the good news about the weather, and just made the reservation for 2 bunks. And just look at getting some food, eating for dinner, and well, like I say, just a few things, and just lay here and listen to some Joe Rogan podcasts, which I have a zillion of, having banked them up from January, and just enjoy the wind. Another note, I forgot to mention that when Rufus got here, he told me he had tried to contact me to see if I was still down near the knock, because I told him I'd be doing some photos down there, because he was able to find that he could get one of those cabins, the ones that were on the hillside, and we could put 4 people in it, so it'd be about $55 each for the night. And I did get a voicemail, but I didn't hear my phone ring. And apparently I can text him, but his text reply doesn't work. I don't get his text, but he'll get mine. More weirdness with rail mobility or my phone. Anyway, I guess I'm just having a bit of a Laura bar and a couple fun-sized Snickers for dinner, because I'm not going to cook anything. And I'll feast tomorrow, hopefully. Somewhere after the run for the resupply. I don't know if they have a dinner or diner wherever we're going, but I'll be eating something. So maybe I'll have my porridge in the morning, maybe I won't bother. But if it's a nice sunny day, I'll probably take the time. Just more lovely news on a wonderful day.